All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Radina Foster, and I am the Business Development Specialist with Ushni Ponka. And I just wanted to say thank you for hopping on today to take kind of your first step, or maybe this is not the first session you're watching, but into learning kind of about um, financial strategy, financial independence. Um, the session that I'm going to cover today is on checking and savings accounts. There are a couple other sessions, so I do encourage you to go back and watch those too if you have not done so. But this one specifically will kind of focus on that. So, historically, we normally do these in person, so there is some interactive stuff that I'll probably just do on my own, simply because obviously this is pre-recorded. So it might not work kind of as it normally would, but it should give you at least the gist of the information. And so thank you again for signing on and checking this out. So, in today's session, I have a couple goals, and some of those goals are listed right here. But the first is the purpose and benefits of checking and savings accounts, how to open an account, the activities involved in using and managing an account, the tools and technology that you can use to manage it, and then how you can protect yourself against identity theft. So if we move on to the next slide, kind of just a background of essentially like money. So money is obviously a resource used to meet the needs of family and community. Um, how you manage your money is going to affect your ability to meet your family's needs both today and in the future. So, traditionally, um, and our ancestors managed their resources a little bit different. Money was not really a thing, um, back in the day. So they had to manage it differently, their resources. And so I guess normally what I would say is like, what are some of the ways that you guys can think of? So, for instance, like the traditional economy of Alaska natives, the spring fish run was an important time for the community. So a good catch was followed by a number of activities. Some fish were eaten fresh, so that's kind of like using cash. Others were smoked or dried for the future, so that's like putting money in a savings account. And in today's society, obviously it's different. So we're not catching fish and cooking them today and saving for later or doing trades. But it's the same idea. So just to kind of get us thinking about how we use um, our resources or manage our money. So we all handle money differently. When you want to purchase something but you don't have cash, what do you do? So some people will um, use credit, right? So they'll take a credit card and they'll purchase something. Some people will write a check. Some people will borrow money from a family member or a friend. Um, so it's kind of just, again, thinking about when you want to purchase something, but you don't have money, you don't have cash, what do you do? And when you have extra money, where do you keep it? Do you put it in a bank? Do you put it under your bed? Do you have a safe? Do you keep it in your purse? How do you pay your monthly expenses? Do you pay cash? Do you go pay your bills, your cell phone bill at the Boost Mobile outlet? And just give them the cash to pay for it for that month. Do you have a checking account and you have it auto drafted out of your account? Do you write a check? Do again, everybody handles money differently. Where do you cash checks if you receive a check? And then the questions are kind of like, what works well about your approach to managing money, and then what doesn't work well. So um, that's kind of will move us into checking and savings accounts. So there are some like bills that you have to pay that maybe won't accept cash, or you can't pay cash because you don't have access to a local store to pay for it or a local branch, right? And so in that instance, there's obviously a different way. You either have to like mail a money order or pay with a card online, or maybe you have to find a family or a friend that has access to those types of things so that you can use that. Maybe you have to go get a prepaid card. What is it that you have to do? And that kind of will lead us into, again, checking and savings accounts. So, when you make choices about managing your money, it's important to consider all your options. Checking and savings accounts are often not used in Native communities, although these accounts are the safest and least expensive way to manage money. So, question I would ask if we were live is why do you think our people are hesitant about opening an account at a financial institution? And some of the things that I've heard in previous classes are um, they don't trust the institution, right? They have in the past had like a whole bunch of overdraft charges or fees that they weren't aware of, and so they thought they had money, and then they end up they didn't have money. Some of it is that they don't have access to a bank. There's not a bank in their community. So there's obviously again different reasons um, why in general, some Native communities are a little bit hesitant to use a checking or savings account. Um, Sometimes we don't consider using them because we don't have any information or experience with it. Um, we just don't know enough. So hopefully this little class will teach you something. So um, financial institutions offer checking and savings accounts so that you have a safe and secure place to keep your money. Having a checking and savings account is another way to manage your money. You can deposit and withdraw money from both checking and savings accounts. So, some of the benefits of having a checking or savings account are here. So, like for example, check cashing. If you have a check, you can take it to your bank and they will cash it for you. Online banking or bill pay. You can actually pay your bills online. You can actually also access your account real time at any time, 24 hours a day to see what your balance is, what transactions have went through, what transactions have not. If you have a bank account, your bank will often offer money orders at a reduced fee or sometimes even free. You can get checks so that you can write checks for payments for your bills. Some financial and banking institutions will offer loans. There's something called an ATM, which is an automated teller machine, and that basically gives you the opportunity to take a debit card or a like it looks like a credit card to a machine that are generally located in pretty convenient spots in your community where you can withdraw money or even deposit money. And then you can have direct deposit. So a lot of employers will just directly deposit your paycheck into your bank account. So you don't even have to worry about cashing a check or when your money is going to be available. You know it's available the day you get paid. So those are just some of the benefits of having a bank account and some of the features that a bank account can give you. And then that moves us into fees and interest. So some accounts have fees and others do not. When you open your account with a financial institution, they will provide you with a list of fees related to your account. It's important that you know and understand those. Um, the normally the upfront they'll ask you kind of what the intent of this checking account or savings account is going to be, and they'll try to match your type of account with what your needs are to try to avoid having any kind of fees. But then that also goes over to interest. So sometimes a financial institution will pay you for keeping your money in an account at their institution. And this payment's called interest. So the interest you receive is calculated as a percentage of the total funds you have in your account. And if you don't take money out of your account, the balance will continue to grow. So interest is a powerful tool because it's money you don't have to work for. Instead, the money in your account does that work for you. So this just kind of gives you, this slide shows you, if you start with $200 in 6 months and you add $50 a month, you're going to end up with uh, adding $300, right? So it's $50 times 6 months is 300. So your starting balance of 200, and then you've added 300 over the 6 months. So your subtotal of basically how much money you've put into your account is 500. But on this type of account, you can earn 2% interest. So you've earned over that 6 months, you earned $4.98. So your account actually will have a balance of 504.98, even though you've only put 500 in it. So that $4.98 is the interest that you earned during that 6 months. And there are, again, lots of different type of accounts where you can earn different amounts of interest as long as you keep the money in. But it just kind of shows you that, again, another benefit is you can earn interest just for keeping your money in an account. All right, and then the next thing is, how do you know what financial institution or type of account to choose? So that's a good question. And it's important that you choose one that meets your financial needs. So you want to find a place where you feel comfortable asking questions and working with the employees. If possible, I would even visit a number of financial institutions before you choose one. And you can ask yourself the following questions that are shown here at each of these financial institutions to consider, which one you move forward with. So what types of accounts do they offer? How much money do you need to open your account? How much money do you have to keep in there to avoid any fees? Um, are there fees for services offered? So if you want to do bill pay, do you have to pay to do that? Um, do you get an ATM or debit card with that account? Does that bank have ATMs that are near you, like near where you live or work or shop? Are there fees to use the ATMs? Do they offer online or mobile banking? Do they have an overdraft protection? So there's lots of different questions you want to ask before you make a decision on what banking institution you use, and then furthermore, what kind of account you will actually use. So, this is a part where I actually normally will have two people volunteer to go and read a skit, but because we're doing this online, I don't have that. So you get to listen to me. I'm going to try to kind of change my voice a bit in between the two people so that you can tell who is who. Um, so this is scene one. Why have a bank account? So the customer, I don't know if I really need a bank account. I just keep my money in cash. Well, banker, that works for some people, but what if your money gets lost or stolen? A checking or savings account keeps your money safe, insured, and easy to access. Plus, you can always get a savings account, and that can even help your money grow with interest. In addition, there are certain times when you need to purchase something and cash is not an option. I know for me, when I go to a concert or a sports game at our local arena, they're a cashless place, and you must have a credit or debit card to make purchases. Scene two, customer. Okay, that makes sense, but how do I even open one? Do I need a lot of money? The banker. Not at all. Most banks and credit unions just need some ID, like a driver's license, or a tribal ID, your social security number, and a small deposit. Some accounts only need $25 or less to start. There are lots of different options when deciding what kind of account is opened as well. If you decide to move forward, I'll ask you several questions to make sure we have the right account for your specific situation. For example, do you have direct deposit or how much of a balance are you thinking you'll keep in the account? Me knowing that information will ensure that you get the best account and ensure you have no additional fees. All right, customer. So, what's the difference between a checking and a savings account? Banker. Good question. A checking account is designed for everyday use, paying bills, using a debit card, and making withdrawals and deposits. A savings account is meant to hold money you don't plan to spend right away. It usually earns interest, which helps your money grow over time. Many people use checking for daily expenses and savings for goals like emergencies, vacations, or future needs. All right, scene three, using and managing an account. Customer. So once I open one, what do I do with it? Banker. You can deposit money from your paycheck, pay bills, write checks, or use a debit card. The key is keeping track of what you spend so you don't overdraft. You know what overdraft is? Customer. Oh, yeah. That's one of the reasons I fear of opening an account. I have heard horror stories of people owing so much money because of fees. Banker. Yeah, the fees can add up quickly. We do have something called overdraft protection that can help avoid those. For example, if you open a checking and savings account, we can set up overdraft protection between the two. But yes, this is super important and why making sure you are tracking every penny you spend is critical. Not only will it help avoid overdraft fees, but it will also be good to see where your money is being spent and where there may be opportunities to cut on spending. Scene four, tools and technology. Customer, but how do I keep track without carrying a notebook everywhere? Banker, great question. You can use online banking or mobile app to check your balance anytime. ATMs can also give you cash and show your balance. I can help you get the app downloaded and set up your account when we get your account opened. You can also use a register that helps you log each purchase along with your balance. I'd love to show you how to use a register if you'd like as well. Scene five, protecting yourself. And what about fraud and scams? How do I stay safe? Banker, protect your PIN number. Don't show your this personal information like your social security with anybody, no strangers. Shred all financial documents and keep an eye on your account for suspicious charges. If you ever see something wrong, call the bank right away. We'll look at any transaction and make sure it's a valid charge right away for you. Also, remember if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Just do your research anytime you're using your card online. Make sure the website or company is a trusted company. You can check the Better Business Bureau or just search it up on Google to see if it's trustworthy. If anything, or the good thing about having a bank though is we'll help you fight anything that's fraudulent. If anything ever happens, you can also put an alert on your credit report to help protect you even more. Another way to protect your money is by naming a beneficiary or setting up a payable on death on your account. It's called a POD. This means if something ever happens to you, the money in your account goes directly to that person you choose without going through a whole long court process. It's a simple step, but it ensures your money goes where you want it to. Customer, wow, I didn't realize banking could make like life easier and safer. Banker, exactly. Having a checking and savings accounts is one of the first steps to financial independence. All right, so what can we learn from that skit? So, when opening an account, obviously, again, ask lots of questions. Make sure you're communicating what your financial needs are. Are you going to have a direct deposit from a job? How much money do you normally keep? Are you somebody who keeps $200 in your bank at all time? Or are you somebody who, kind of has to live paycheck to paycheck, and so you're not going to have a minimum balance? Being upfront with the banker in those conversations will be very, very important because they will match you to an account that actually will meet your financial needs. And then as far as what's needed, you'll need a driver's license or tribal ID, a social security number, um, and then, just a proof of address. All right. moving on. So now that we know how to open an account, how do we manage it? So we talked a little bit in that skit about overdraft fees. So NSF charges, that means non-sufficient funds. And so that means that basically some charge is submitted to your bank, but you do not have the funds in your bank to cover it. And so how can you avoid that? So the first and most important thing is obviously um, keeping track of all your purchases. Use online and mobile banking as a resource. You can constantly check that again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Use a check register. Uh, it's super important that you're consistently um, checking your account to make sure that you don't see anything that shouldn't be on there and that you've documented any charges that you have made. And then what is overdraft protection? So many financial institutions do offer overdraft protection as a backup in the event that you overdraw your checking account. And these services are helpful. They can ensure that a transaction's completed even if you don't have enough funds. Moreover, overdraft protection can prevent like a bounced check or other delinquent debit from winding up on a check system consumer report. However, do know that there are fees that are associated with overdraft protection. Um, so, and those can differ depending on the type of transaction that caused the overdraft and the source of the funds used to cover it. So just make sure that you're very familiar with your financial institution's overdraft protection policies to avoid any unnecessary surprises. All right, and then this is kind of just an example check register. So this is essentially showing you that you need to um, keep track of all your purchases. So this shows you like on June 5th, you have a starting balance of $175.25. On that day, it looks like you charged $50.25 at Walmart using your debit card. So now your balance is 125. And then you did a non-bank ATM cash withdrawal. So you got $20 out, which brought your total down to 105. But because you used a foreign ATM or one that wasn't from your bank, you had an ATM fee of $1.50. So that brings your balance down to 103.50. Um, on the 10th, you went to Lucky Mart Groceries and spent $12.65, which brought your total down to $90.85, and so on. So this just shows you how you should keep track of everything. Um, on the right side of this slide, I do have some questions. Again, this is more interactive when I have a classroom in front of me, but feel free to pause the video and work through these questions if it's something that you would be interested in kind of working through. Um, the next part is about balancing your checkbook. So this should be done with every account statement. Another word for balancing your checkbook is reconciling. So you may have heard that before. So balancing or reconciling your checkbook requires comparing your check register, which is what we were just looking at, with your account statement to make sure that all the transactions have been properly recorded and processed by the bank. And this is an important task so that you do not overdraw your account. It also helps you verify that your various purchases and payments are debited for the correct amount. In today's fast paced financial world, it's very easy for a merchant to overcharge a person, either by mistake or intentionally. So it's a good idea to always check your bank statement and kind of give you an example of maybe where that I've seen that happen before, and it has obviously been a very unhonest person, but we went out to dinner and left a tip of um, you know, $3. Well, that server thought they deserved more, so they changed that three to a five. And so you're only calculating a $3 tip when in fact the bank actually is going to take $5 out because the server made a change on your tab. So again, that's why it's super important to kind of reconcile. And so you should do this monthly with your account statement. And then after all financial transactions have been recorded in both your check register and your account statement, those balances should be the same. All right, now we're going to move on to how to write a check. And this is an interesting exercise that we've done in class that nowadays people don't write checks as much. So this was something definitely that people did not know what to do. So I'm going to have to do this kind of going back and forth on the slide, but really quick, you're going shopping because you just got a new dog. You're heading to PetSmart to purchase a few things. You're going to buy a kennel, some puppy food, water bowls, a collar, a leash, treats, and toys, and your total is $98.22. So this next slide is going to be a blank check, and we're going to go through and see what would go in what section. So pay to the order of. So here's where you're going to put who you're writing that check to. So this is going to be PetSmart. So pay to the order of PetSmart. And then obviously you're going to put today's date, whatever today's date is. The amount was 98.22. So over in the box with the dollar sign, you're going to type, or you're going to write 98.22. And then in this long line, you're going to write out the words 98 and 22. And the reason you're doing that is you want to, especially like because handwriting can be kind of weird, and you want to basically have another place where you're confirming what that check is supposed to be. So here you're going to write the word 90, N-I-N-E-T-Y, 8, E-I-G-H-T, and then the and then normally what they'll do is just put the change over 100. So like 22 over 100 and then a line all the way to the end. So it should be 98 and 22 over $100. And then down here, this is called the memo line, um, where it says 4. So that's the memo line. So you might write your new puppy's name. So Oreo. Or you might write puppy stuff. And this is good just to have so that if you ever forget, like, why did I go to PetSmart and spend that money? Oh, that's why. A lot of times when I write checks to my kids' school, I'll write their name and what it's for. So I might like, his name's Dylan. So I might write like Dylan Boys Soccer or something like that. And again, that's just a documentation of what that check is for. And then this line over here, that's kind of by my picture, the blank, that's where you're actually going to sign your name. And you're going to do it in cursive. And if you don't know cursive, you can print it, but this is where you're going to do your signature. And then just really quick down here at the very bottom where it has these numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, and so on. So this first set of numbers is actually called the routing number. So if you ever asked what your routing number is for your checking account, that's your routing number. The second set of numbers is your actual account number. So that would be your checking account number. And then this last set of numbers is actually going to correspond with your check number. So if you look up in the upper right hand corner, you're going to see 0001 as well. So just kind of food for thought, just so you know. Routing, checking, check number. All right. Then we move on to account management fees. So as I indicated, there sometimes are fees that are associated with a checking or savings account. And so it's super important, again, that you are aware of what those are so that you're accounting for them. So in addition to overdraft fees and non-bank ATM fees that we kind of talked about before, both checking and savings accounts often charge additional fees for some services. They can charge additional for online bill pay, for money orders, for cashier checks, wire transfers. If you try to do a stop payment, um, sometimes they will even have a monthly service fee for the privilege of owning the account. Um, a lot of times you can get those fees waived if you say, for example, do direct deposit or you maintain a minimum balance or you link another account like as a credit card or a home loan or something like that. Um, so the reason I'm even bringing these up is just so that you're aware that you need to ask these types of questions when setting up accounts so that you know there's not going to be any surprise charges that you don't know about. Okay? All right, identity and theft fraud. So, um, identity theft occurs when someone fraudulently uses your name, personal information, or reputation for financial gain. And I can go through and obviously read all this, but you could do that too. I'd say that you should pause the slide and make sure you read it. But it just talks about common types of identity theft, so how people get your information, um, and what information they get, and then what they can do with that information. And then, of course, how do you protect it? So I said it earlier, but don't ever give anybody your social security number. Um, Make sure you're shredding all financial documents. Keep your passwords and your PINs private. Be careful when you're purchasing things online. Do your research. Don't ever enter a social security number or credit cards unless you know that site has good security and it's a legit site. Never give any information to strangers. Shred and cut up old credit cards, and don't give your checkbook or ATM card to anybody. So criminals can rob unsuspecting victims without them even knowing it, and it can destroy your reputation and peace of mind, and it causes lots of stress. Some victims of identity theft spend years working to restore their lives, correcting their personal data, and paying for legal services, all because someone used their good name to commit fraud. So just take precautions now to avoid being a victim of identity theft. So, steps to take if you do become a victim of identity theft. So, the FTC has a website that provides a step by step overview of how to deal with it. You can visit that website that's on the screen, and it will tell you exactly what to do. You're going to call the companies where you know the fraud occurred. You're going to ask them to freeze or close your accounts. You're going to put a fraud alert on your credit report, and you're going to review your credit report. If you place a fraud alert on your credit report, it will help um, stop the identity thief from like opening additional accounts. Because you'll get notifications if anybody tries to. And then also file a complaint with the FTC and your local police so that um, it's documented that you did that. All right, and then forgery. Forgery is a type of identity theft whereby a person purposefully tries to withdraw money from your account by pretending to be you. An example of forgery is when someone else writes your signature on the back of a check to cash it. If for any reason you think that someone has taken one of your checks, immediately call your bank. Explain the situation and request that they cancel the check before anyone has an opportunity to cash it. This is called a stop payment. There may be a fee, but it's better than having someone rob you of your money. And you don't know, they could write, a check for a larger amount and get more money out than, say, the $15 stop payment that it costed. So just make sure you're contacting your bank right away if you ever suspect that to be a case. And there's a little bit of a funny cartoon. Hey, if you're going to forge that check, maybe you shouldn't use a name like Gromowitz. It's funny. Anyways, that is all I have for you guys today. So thank you so much for spending time with me. Um, I hope you're at least able to take one thing away from the training today and apply it to your life. And if you have more questions, you can always reach out to the Petco team. And we thank you. Have a good day.